All right, so guys, the next one is actually from San Diego as well, and I don't think we've ever had an article from KPBS, but we found this one. It is San Diego adopts new rules governing sales of affordable housing. I specifically want to avoid talking about the nuances of it. I want to talk about the theory of it, okay? So I'm just going to read this part and then we're going to go into a conversation. So the regulations are aimed at preserving properties with deed restrictions that limit rents to affordable levels. When owners wish to sell such properties, they'll have to offer first right of refusal to a list of qualified buyers who build and maintain affordable housing. Now, proponents say the ordinance closes a loophole in the state law, and supporters acknowledge that there are some limitations in this still. Now, as far as fixing our affordable housing issue, we use the word affordable housing in a way when it comes to like what it requires on paper for someone to qualify to get a mortgage. But the definition of affordable housing is more about like income relative to the cost of renting or buying in that place. Yeah. So without going any further into the various nuances of this, do you think that policies like this, if executed correctly, can help ease some of our problems here in San Diego?
I don't think so, because it just pushes, like, what's the benefit to, from a business point of view, whoever buys this investment, what's the benefit to them to not be able to sell it or be able to, control the rents to where it makes sense for them? Like, who's buying this and saying, hey, like, I'm okay taking a loss on this investment?
Okay.
Unless the state or government is subsidizing that in some sort of way.
Okay. What's your take, Memo?
Yeah, no, mine. What I took a look at this is just their deeding restriction on rents to keep everything affordable. So if it's there, obviously, and I think there's going to be like in 20 soon, there's going to be so many of these deed restrictions homes becoming available.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I look at it and I say like, well, okay, qualified buyers, well, who is that?
So let's go. Since we're talking about it, let's actually. I'll read it. I'll read it off. So 4,200. So 4,200 affordable housing properties with deed restrictions are set to expire by 2040. So 15 years from now. After the deed restrictions expire, property owners can raise the rents to the market rate, which is often unaffordable for low to moderate income renters. So basically, these are people in the situation now that are already inside the policy that allows their rent to be held to a specific amount due to their economic status financially.
Correct.
What do we do with 4,200 housing properties if those people are displaced?
That's a tough question.
That's the question. Yeah.
Here in San Diego, that's a tough question.
And it's fine that it's hard to answer.
Send
because
it to
that's one of my points in this is there's no clean way out of this because there's no easy answer. We have inventory problems that we've talked about here ad nauseum, right? Yeah. We have pricing issues, which we talk about. And I'll say, how many people did we see have situations where they're in a place that every year the rent goes up by the 10% max, and it's still not even where market rent is now because of how rampant that went up during like the closures that happened 2020, 21. Like it was insane how much things were going back on the market, having gone off the market and come back way higher than they were. Similarly to how we see places for rent up in LA that people are putting on the market right now, they're way above what the actual market rent is because of the fires and people being displaced. So I think that they're trying to front run this because they want to give themselves ample time, obviously. 15 years is a lot of time, but to figure out what would be most advantageous.
I guess, my biggest question would be how many of these homes do we have that have these deed restrictions?
Well, I don't know if it's more than the 4,200. They're just mentioning the 4,200 connected to the expiration of 2040.
Yeah. So, that's a long time.
It is a long time. I mean, it's 15 years. There's obviously, it's not going to wait till then to get fixed, but the reason I was saying that though is that it's a real problem. It's not just happening in San Diego. This has got to be happening in other places where there's very high cost of living on average, but there's still a lot of people who live below average means that are still trying to keep a shelter over their head.
So, do you think that at the end of by 2040, do you believe that the people that own these, who owns these properties to begin with? Is it private investors? Like, because if they're like,
well, it's a mix. It's a mix.
Yeah.
It's not just one kind of. There's not one kind of landlord.
Well, what if they want to increase their rents, or they're just kind of like, hey, I want to sell my property? Like,
well, if they're going to sell, they're going to. The whole point is if they sell, then they want to offer the house to the people who are qualified on this list.
Because now they have to then.
So all these people that are currently qualifying for low housing. Yeah. if they can qualify for the purchase under affordable housing, then they'll get first right of refusal before the open market. So think of it like a place going to a holding bucket before it goes to MLS. Like the people who are qualified on this list get first crack at it, and then it can go to the public market after that. What do you think of that idea?
I just think that if it's already going to be difficult to keep up with the regular market rents, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to get approved for the purchase. If it's already going to be an income obstacle, then we know right now even regular people that are having significant or decent incomes that are above 100,000 are still having problems getting approved. So if you fast forward that, if hopefully by 2040 everybody's income is up to par with what the cost of living is, which we know that's not likely to happen.
You're so optimistic.
I just said it's not likely to happen.
That's how I'm being sarcastic. You're so optimistic.
But basically, I feel that at the end of it, I'm like, it makes no sense in a business standpoint, unless there's some sort of incentive for the owners to keep it.
Yeah,
but again, I think there's just too much stuff intertwined that it's very difficult to say what can be done and what can't, or what will be done.
I think they're looking for ideas.
Yeah,
I think that's ultimately what it's going to be. Is it going to have to be? There going to be a meeting of the minds. I don't think they're just going to force an answer on people, because there has to be some sort of version of either side of this happening.
You can always just build more.
Well, but okay. Again, thank you for the sarcasm. Yeah, you sure just go ahead and build more. Look, I guess. It's overstating the obvious. There's no easy solution to this. There's not.
There isn't.
So
right now. I mean, and you can see right here. You can see here where Councilman Kent Lee said in San Diego is losing hundreds of affordable housing units each year, and new construction can't keep up.
Yeah. So for that reason, I'm on the side of having some sort of policy that allows these properties to go to people that are on a list first.
Of course.
That are already there. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's where
I think that's what it is. It's like like when you rent a house and you have the rent to buy option. Yeah. It's like, I mean,
every area. If you go here in Eastlake, I mean, there's developers that develop and they give them certain tax breaks and everything, and they put it's going to be for
if you offer
your Section 8 and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
And every area is required to have a certain amount of affordable homes.
That's true. Yeah.
So we see that, we have those. We have plenty of those around here.
And that actually brings up, there was a few properties out of right there by San Isidro off Otay Mesa, and some of those were low income housing. Then you had to prove basically that you had more than 4 people to live in the property. Everybody's either you had to prove that everybody's name either on a bill or they actually live there. So it's like they do have those programs, but I'm like now wondering, in between all those properties that are regular, they have all these affordable programs as well.
Yep.
So
I mean, a lot of people require stability, and I think these things, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll probably have to come back and pick this one up again. It was just interesting because, we talk about affordability a lot. We talk about inflation a lot, cost of goods a lot. We talk about our region, our backyard a lot. We talk to a lot of people who, they want to buy a house and they can't afford it or they don't qualify. And then we talk to people that own a house and they're like, hey, I need my house to bail me out. Yeah. So like this is kind of a little bit of a touchy subject, but we're going to need some sort of policy to kind of backstop what has to happen in order to keep these people sheltered is my takeaway. So.